Explanations. Third conditional. This type of sentence describes a past event that is different to what really happened. If plus past perfect. Would, wouldn't plus have plus past participle. If you had arrived earlier, we wouldn't have missed the train. If you hadn't warned me about the sun, I would have got sunburnt. Example, you went for a long walk, but you did not take your umbrella. It rained, and you got wet. If I had taken my umbrella, I wouldn't have got wet. If I'd heard the weather forecast, I wouldn't have gone out. If I hadn't gone out, I would have finished my homework. Modal verbs in conditional sentences. The examples in Grammar 13 and this unit have all used will, won't or would, wouldn't in the result clause. But we can use any other modal verb, like can, could, may, might, must and should. If you ever come to Istanbul, I can show you around the city. If you ever come to Istanbul, you must phone me. We often use might and could in conditional sentences when we want to say that we are not certain about the results. Compare. If you carry too many bags, you will drop the eggs. Certain result. If you carry too many bags, you might drop the eggs. Uncertain result. If anyone believed my story, I would become famous. Certain result. If anyone believed my story, I could become famous. Uncertain result. In third conditional sentences we use could have, done, or might have, done. If I had brought some more money with me, I could have taken a taxi. Conditionals in everyday speech we can use imagine or supposing in place of if. Imagine you saw a snake, what would you do? Supposing you owned a helicopter, what would you use it for? If I were you. We can give advice by using a second conditional sentence beginning if I were you. If I were you, I'd spend more time on your written work. If I were you, I wouldn't eat so much chocolate. It is also possible to put the if clause at the end. I'd be more careful, if I were you. A. Supposing you had wings, what would you do? What would you do if you had wings? B. Why don't you leave now? That's what I'd do. If I were you, I'd leave now. C. Imagine you lived on Mars. How would you feel? How would you feel if you lived on Mars? D. I think you should buy a bike. That's what I'd do. If I were you, I'd buy a bike. E. Imagine you were rich. What would you do? What would you do if I were rich? F. Supposing Jim came with us, what would you say? What would you say if Jim came with us? G. Why don't you take the bus? That's what I'd do. If I were you, I'd take the bus. H. Imagine you owned a robot. What would you do? What would you do if you owned a robot?
A. Charlotte didn't leave early, and so she missed the bus. If Charlotte had left early, she wouldn't have missed the bus. I didn't buy more milk, so I didn't have enough for breakfast. If I'd bought more milk, I would have had enough for breakfast. We forgot to take a map, so we got lost in the mountains. If we'd remembered to take a map, we wouldn't have got lost in the mountains. I didn't go to bed early, so I didn't wake up at 7 o'clock. If I'd gone to bed early, I would have waken up at 7 o'clock. E. Mike didn't make a shopping list, and he forgot to buy some coffee. If Mike had made a shopping list, he would have remembered some coffee. F. I didn't realize you were tired when I asked you to go for a walk. If I'd realized you were tired, I wouldn't have asked you to go for a walk. G. The Romans didn't sail across the Atlantic, so they didn't reach America. If the Romans had sailed across the Atlantic, they would have reached America. I didn't turn left at the station, and I lost my way. If I'd turned left at the station, I wouldn't have lost my way.